Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Alright guys, we got spoiled for the next 4 episodes of the Boruto anime, and it turns out that the arc is going to be over within the next 3 episodes. So it's going to be a very interesting time to see exactly what the next arc is going to be about. But before I start rambling, I'm going to get into the actual spoilers. The first episode is going to be Boruto episode 253. The title is going to be Conflicting Feelings. Now into the actual paragraph, it says Boruto together with Uchiha, Sarada, and Mitsuki are heading over to Ikada's location. Ikada has decided to wage war against the water country. When Boruto has a reunion with Ikada, Boruto addresses Ikada as friend and then tries to reason with him to stop battling. However, Boruto is still regarded as the enemy of Sirin, and so Boruto's pleas fall on deaf ears. Nevertheless, Boruto continues trying to persuade Ikada in a persistent manner, but despite Boruto's offers, Ikada merely stares back at him in a cold way. Ikada then states that he will be willing to exchange something in order to stop the conflict if Boruto is willing to agree on some conditions. Alright, so this episode right here seems like it's not necessarily going to be that much action. Now it's going to be extremely intense. The reason why I say it's going to be extremely intense is because just Boruto going up and pulling up to Ikada and the Funato clan, it essentially puts Boruto in a life or death situation, period, point blank. Honestly, I'm surprised that they didn't necessarily attack Boruto off of the rip. All the stuff they've been talking about, they've been tweeting all this, they've been talking about all that. Literally all they did was talk about how they couldn't wait till they caught the Leaf Ninja Brat. The Leaf Ninja Brat is literally walking onto their boat, and most likely they're probably not necessarily going to do anything to him. But regardless, it's going to be intense. Now here's the thing. I don't necessarily think that Boruto is going to get through Ikada. Not necessarily because, of course, the spoilers are in front of me, but also because this series right here has been like building up to like the last couple of episodes, and I'm not gonna lie, it should be a couple of action scenes. It should be some fireworks. It should be some packs going up in the air, even though a lot of people did actually die in this arc already. But there should be something here, so I don't necessarily think that Ikada is gonna outright accept it. Now, at the end of this paragraph, they did say that Ikada states that he did want something in exchange in order to stop the conflict. The exchange thing is gonna be a very interesting thing, mainly because it has to be some unreasonable thing, mainly because his sister literally lost his life. He may actually even ask for Boruto to die or something like that. But let's get into the next episode, Boruto episode 254. The title's going to be A Spiral of Revenge. Now, into the actual paragraph, it says, since Boruto is unable to change Ikada's mind, Boruto has resolved himself to exchange his own life in order to stop the conflict between the pirates and the water country. Boruto sends his message to Sarada and Mitsuki that they shouldn't try to fight and be spurred on by their own anger, even in the event that Boruto dies on his own terms. However, the two of them won't silently accept such a proposal. There's simply no way that they can go along with his decision. Will Boruto and his comrades be capable of stopping the war and this impending cycle of revenge? Moreover, will they be able to restore peace to the seas? Alright, so this right here, my personal opinion, it seems like the actual core value of the war has gotten completely lost and has been like completely hijacked just to essentially highlight the cycle of hatred. Now that right there in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, but if we're in a certain situation where we're trying to figure out exactly how to stop this war, I think one of the biggest solutions that you could potentially have is, of course, having the Mizukage and having Aromi, the leader of the Funato clan, actually talk about their core issues. And this right here just makes it seem like Boruto is just trying to stop the cycle of hatred, which is not actually going to happen until you get to the core root of the problem. Which is why, I mean, at the end of the paragraph, they did say, moreover, will they be able to restore peace to the seas, quote unquote. Now, in my personal opinion, I don't necessarily know exactly what they mean by restore peace to the seas, because that right there is essentially what Chojo wants to do with his machine. Now, by the way, if you guys don't necessarily know exactly what's going on, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys don't, because this arc specifically hasn't necessarily done a very good job of actually highlighting the core plot. It's been almost all about revenge, but Chojo himself essentially wants to control the seas. Now, he wants to control the seas for good reasons, potentially to him, but of course, a lot of people in the Hidden Mist Village and of course the Funato clan do not agree with that. Now, the Funato clan and the Hidden Mist Village, they didn't necessarily like each other to begin with, so I don't necessarily think that just agreeing upon this is going to quell all the tension between the Hidden Mist Village and the Funato clan. But hypothetically, if they can't reach a common ground with this thing specifically, then the war can actually stop. Boruto, in my personal opinion, should be trying to communicate that right there and not just stopping the cycle of hatred. That right there doesn't necessarily make much sense to me. Now, another thing, Boruto is literally risking his own life. Like, he wants to exchange his own life for everybody to stop. Again, this right here is most likely not going to happen, because we see Boruto alive in the manga and the time skip, a bunch of things like that. But also, I don't know what Boruto's plan is here. It might just be me, but it seems like Boruto is just like very, very happy to throw his life away in multiple situations. It's not just this, it's not just the manga, it's a bunch of things. And we might find out in the future that Boruto legitimately wants to die, mainly because it could potentially protect his whole entire village. One of the reasons why I say that is obviously because of Momoshiki. He understands at this particular point, probably not in the current version of the manga, but in this particular point, if Boruto actually does die, then the threat of Momoshiki taking over his body is completely finished. Like, the threat of Momoshiki taking over his body and destroying the village is exterminated. And I think Boruto is probably trying to find ways just to exterminate Momoshiki. But the next episode is going to be Boruto episode 255. The title is going to be A Troubling Unresolved Issue. Now into the actual paragraph, it says, after settling the dispute and uprising between the water country and the pirates, Boruto and his comrades start heading back to the hidden mist village. However, Boruto becomes anxious and is worried about what will happen to Ikada. Because Kagura's petition, Kurisuke Bunten and their comrades got acquitted, but Ikada's fate hasn't been decided yet. Although Ikada teamed up with pirates in order to antagonize the water country, Boruto wants Ikada to be dealt with in a lenient manner. However, Boruto's opinion doesn't mesh well with Kawaki at all. Kawaki declares that they have no choice but to hand down a severe punishment, and so the two of them start quarreling with one another. Boruto thinks about Kawaki's objection and also the people who are enveloped in the recent conflict. Boruto then talks to his father, Naruto, about the issue. Alright, so this right here seems very interesting. So first things first, it says, quote unquote, after settling the dispute, which essentially means that the dispute is now over. The war is now over. So the last episode should have been, Boruto episode 254 should have been the last episode of the actual war. So they did come to some sort of conclusion. Boruto's still alive, so that right there probably wasn't necessarily the conclusion. And I definitely do believe that there were probably going to be some fights in that particular episode, mainly because this paragraph says that Boruto thinks about the people who are enveloped in the quote unquote recent conflict. Now I think that Boruto's heart is obviously in the right place, but he's very idealistic, and they talked about this in the series. I think that Bunten actually talked about how he's so idealistic. Kawaki, in my personal opinion, is a lot more realistic. If I had to give my personal opinion, I think that Ikada should be punished 1000%. Just because you have a reason for doing a crime doesn't necessarily mean that you should be absolved of the crime, but I definitely do want to point something out. If there is a situation where Ikada actually did aid in ending the war, then 1000% he should definitely get leniency. But judging from Kawaki's actual reaction, it doesn't necessarily seem like Ikada actually helped or aided in actually ending the war at all. In my personal opinion, I won't be surprised if they ended the war just by simple force, and of course they took Ikada and the rest of the characters as prisoners or something like that. Now the next episode is going to be Boruto episode 256. The title is going to be The Finest Recipe. Oh my goodness, this is the episode about Chocho, isn't it? Alright, so Akamichi Chocho and Yamanaka Inojin happen to make an acquaintance. Boring! Alright, so that's essentially it for the spoilers. Let me know what you guys think about these episodes in the comment section below. If you guys want my honest opinions about this Chocho episode, it's probably going to be like one of those regular Chocho arcs. Surprisingly, we got 3 Chocho arcs right now. This will be the 3rd Chocho arc. Every time that we do get a Chocho arc, it's either coming off of a big arc or going into a big arc. Hopefully this means that we're going into a big arc, and I'll get to that and I'll talk about that a little bit more when this episode does actually come. But let me know what you guys think about these spoilers in the comment section below. But it's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.